Hello and welcome to this new ER2 modding SDK tutorial. Today we're gonna learn how to make auto-transport vehicles, which are vehicles meant to spawn and transport units directly into the battlefield. Vehicles like this can be cargo planes for paratroopers, boats and gliders, but in future we might add more kind of vehicles like this. For this tutorial we are gonna use some 3D models that we already have into our example folders, but of course, as always, feel free to use your custom 3D models. Let's start by creating an auto-transport boat, aka landing craft. So let's select the 3D model of our boat and choose ER2 mods, vehicles, auto-transport boat template. As you can see, our boat is spawned with already some scripts and some settings already applied, like we got the seats and we got all the important components in the root of it. I always suggest to set up some LODs for your models, so you always will have a low poly version of your model at distance, which is gonna save a lot of performance. As you can see, we can, for example, start by adjusting the box collider for our vehicle, and we can of course also add more box colliders if needed. Then we got the seats, so every element of the seats array define a possible seat position onto our vehicle, and each of them is connected to a game object to define the exact place positions and a few other properties. In fact, just like any kind of vehicle, we can make the seated soldier being hidden or visible, or we can change the animation of the seat. Now going on with the auto-transport vehicle script, we got a few more properties, such as the third-person camera distance, the rotation speed when turning, the speed, the engine sound distance, and the sound clips. We don't need to set internal parts for vehicles like this. We can set a muffler smoke though. We can set the whistle for when to dismount the units. We can set the water splash for when the boat is moving on the water, which is basically a simple particle effect that is spawning from the front of the boat and generates particles when it moves. As you can see, basically setting up an auto-transport vehicle is very similar to setting up every other kind of vehicle, so I'm not gonna spend too much time explaining every single parameter here. So we can move on and choose to make a glider, for example. So let's select our glider model and choose ER2 mods, vehicles, auto-transport glider template. So this is the model for our glider. As always, we can have some parameters and some components here. In this case, we are also gonna have an rigid body, which is gonna be automatic set up by the template. You don't have to change anything here, but you can change the box collisions for this vehicle. As you can see, the vehicle already puts some box colliders in the shape of this glider, but make sure to apply them to the shape of your own glider model. Then we got the glider script. So as always, we got the seat array here, where every seat is binded. As you can see in this example, we got 2 seats that are visible. And a few other transport passenger seats that are actually invisible. That means that the soldier seated in those seats will not be visible. Then we got all the other parameters, just like any kind of vehicle for ER2. For this kind of specific vehicle, I want also to show how to set up a couple wheels, because gliders can sometimes have some wheels. However, for this kind of vehicle, this is not mandatory. So let's select both wheels and choose ER2 mods, vehicles, wheels, and simple wheel setup. As we have only 2 wheels, the simple wheel setup is already good. However, in case you want to set up more than 8 wheels for a vehicle, or if you want to apply specific informations to your wheels, then I suggest use the setup wheels menu that is explained in other tutorials like the tank tutorial. So here we set up some simple wheels and they are applied automatically to the 2 meshes we selected. As you can see, we got the mesh with their pivot position in the center. If the wheels were configured to have the pivot in the center, and the colliders, which defines where the wheel is colliding with the ground and what mesh to update when colliding and rolling on the ground. Okay, so let's move on with the cargo plane setup, which is the vehicle for the paratroopers normally. So let's right click into the mesh and choose ER2 mods, vehicle, auto transport cargo plane. As always, we already have the scripts set up correctly, such as the LODs, the boss collider, which again I suggest you to adjust, the cargo plane script with all the possible seat positions. In this case we got the seat of the driver being visible and the other being hidden. Each one of them already has its own animation, but you can change it as always. Of course, as always, if you're gonna delete some seat game object, make sure also to remove the seat reference in the seat array of the vehicle component. Apart from all the parameters, which are again basically the same of any other vehicle, we also have the exit position, which is a transfer position where the paratroopers are gonna spawn once they jump off the cargo plane. You can both set the position and the rotation of the soldiers when jumping off the plane. In particular, your soldiers will be facing toward the Z direction, which is the blue arrow in this case. Notice that I can see the arrow rotated toward the local object because I set my inspector to show the arrow on the local axis. Once you're done setting up your vehicles, make sure as always to save your prefab in your project folders, then mark them with your asset bundle name. Then you can open the mod menu uploader and upload your mod into the workshop. Then from the Steam workshop you can subscribe to your mod to start the download, and then you're ready to open it inside ER2. From within ER2 you can create a custom mission using your auto transport vehicles. We already created one, so let's see how they work. So this is just a normal ER2 custom mission where I set up 3 vehicle spawners, each one of them with a unit spawner pointing to it. So first, as you can see, we got the cargo planes, which is set to start dropping off the airborne units there. Then we got the glider on the left, which is set to land in that position and drop the unit out. And then we got the auto transport bot, which is set to drop the units there. So this is everything for this tutorial. Congratulations for setting up your first auto transport vehicle.